Hello and welcome back to Does It Go Hard, the show where I review movies, video games, and more. Today I will be reviewing the latest Marvel MCU film, Thor: Love and Thunder. So I know I'm pretty late on this one. I wasn't able to go watch this on the movie theater because I just got very busy with a lot of other stuff. I also got sick during that time, so more reason not for me being able to go watch this. I've only heard positive things about this movie. There has not been a single negative review, a single negative thing said about this film. So I'm just glad that everybody has come here to unite and agree that this is the greatest Marvel MCU film to ever come out. So I guess it's not much of a surprise anymore, right? But Thor: Love and Thunder wasn't very well received, or at least it had mixed reception from both critics and audiences. A lot of people loved it and a lot of people hated it. And there's also the middle ground where people just kind of feel indifferent towards it. So which one of these three do I fall into? Well, that's why I'm making this review. So I came into this film pretty neutral. I didn't want to come in here either wanting to love the film or wanting to hate it. I wanted to come here as fair as possible to the film, and I honestly think that does help a lot in my opinion. I feel like if you're expecting a lot from this movie, you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself, but also if you expect less from it, I think you're insulting the movie as well. Because it does have a lot of good things. The problem is that, unfortunately, the movie doesn't know how to balance a lot of the things that this movie tries to be in one single movie. That, by the way, is not even 2 hours long, which at first would have been a bit of a positive, because sometimes these superhero movies, they last too fucking long. They last too long, and it's like, you end up wondering, why is it this movie feels longer than it should be? But I feel like this movie actually could have benefited of a little bit of a longer runtime, maybe for one thing. But let me just get straight to it, okay? The movie actually has a pretty good villain. That was one of the biggest surprises for me watching the film, because from the trailers, Gorr just looked like another bland MCU villain that was not gonna have really that much of an impact on the story, or just in general on the movie itself. But I was really surprised that the movie opens up with the origin of this villain, and it is legitimately incredibly sad and depressing and dark as well. I was like, god damn, this is cool. I like what they're doing with this villain. The fact that from the beginning you do feel sympathetic towards him and you kind of understand his goal and his motivations, that's really cool. The problem is that Gorr barely has any screen time. Gorr the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, actually does a tremendous job as this character. The sad thing about this is that I feel like Gorr is not giving the time on screen that he deserves to be more fleshed out through the film. He has like a total of 4 or 5 scenes, and only 2 of them you can consider actually lengthy and actually development for the villain itself, which is the beginning and near the end of the film. And I just feel like that wasn't enough. I feel like we really should have seen more of this villain, especially doing villainous stuff. Because for somebody named Gorr the God Butcher, he barely even does any god killing. If I'm being completely honest, he kills one god at the beginning of the film. And the rest of the gods that you see him kill, you don't actually see him killing them. It's more like, oh, look at these pictures of dead gods that I suppose Gorr killed. It's like, it's really messy. It doesn't really add up very much, and it doesn't make you really believe that this guy would actually kill as many gods as they tell you he does in the film. I really wish that Gorr just had more character development through the film, or actually show us him killing more gods. Another thing that I liked from the film was actually Jane Foster as the mighty Thor. When she was fighting, when she was throwing the hammer and just causing a lot of chaos, I loved her. I thought she was great, she was confident, she was an amazing warrior during battle. But unfortunately, when she starts talking, they give her this fish out of water dialogue of like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm a god now, this is so crazy and kooky. And it's like, don't do this, don't do this. You're going back to Thor 1, where Thor was a fish out of water on Earth, and it's just stupid, it's so tropey, and just, I can't stand it. Don't ever do this shit ever again. And if you watch the film, you kinda know what happens to Jane by the end. It just feels like a waste of a character, if I'm being completely honest. I really wanted more from this character in the future. Let's just say that she doesn't really get to live by the end of the film. It's just kind of weird that they decided to waste a character where there was so much potential with her for future installments. and that was really disappointing. Aside from the fact that her dialogue was just very dumb. The comedy is also a mixed bag. I think 50% of the comedy actually works. I actually find myself laughing through the film a lot of times, if I'm being completely honest. The problem is that there's like another 30% of the jokes where are a little bit too cringy and uncomfortable, where I wasn't like laughing. I might be like chuckling a little bit like, huh, that's kind of cute, I guess. Then there's the other 20% of the humor that is just complete, just awful, that I'm like, god, what even is this? This movie literally has screaming goats as a joke, and every time these fucking goats started screaming, I was like, please fucking stop. Like I mentioned, Korg and Valkyrie are back from Thor Ragnarok, and they're also really fun here. The problem is that there's a point in the film where they just kind of decide to sideline these characters, and while I do like the relationship between Jane and Thor in this movie a lot more than in the past Thor films, I don't feel like it's enough to hold down the entire film. I will say that it was still effective. I still loved the relationship by the end, which is a shame because I really would have loved that relationship to grow if they hadn't killed the Jane Foster character. People have also been talking about the special effects, and for good reason. The special effects for this movie in particular are really wanky. I mean, there's some really noticeably bad stuff. Like, there's some really noticeable green screen that really can take you out of the movie, because you can totally see it's just a bunch of actors in front of a green screen. Like, it's that noticeable. And there's also just some stylish decisions that, while I didn't mind them, I kind of understand why people don't like them. But I will say this, there were a lot of other things in the special effects department that I really liked. There's a fight between Gore and our heroes in this black and white planet, and it's super cool and stylized, especially when Thor and Jane are using their weapons and you can still see the blue of the lightning. It's super cool and it looks beautiful. There's also this temple full of gods, it's full of gold and stuff, and it just looks really gorgeous. So there is gorgeous stuff and there's really pretty looking things in the movie, but the really wonky and the really awkward special effects are the ones that do kind of bright the most, because they're the most noticeable. Also, if you were expecting to see the Guardians of the Galaxy a lot in this film, don't get your hopes up. They literally appear in the movie for like the first 15 to 10 minutes of the movie, and then they are completely gone. They are out of the picture. I wouldn't be mad about it if the movie had more good supporting characters, because while we do have Valkyrie and Korg, like I said, there's a point where the movie just completely separates these characters, and by this point I really felt like bringing in the Guardians again to kind of support and help Thor would have been a really cool idea. It's really weird. This movie takes really weird decisions because this film really feels unfocused. It focuses a lot on shit that really don't matter, and the stuff that should matter and that we as an audience care for, that kind of gets put to the side. Like Gore gets put to the side, other plot lines and stories that kind of get put to the side, focus on the jokiness and the quirkiness of the movie, which I wouldn't have an issue with it if I didn't already see a movie similar to this done better, that being Thor Ragnarok. This movie is not what Thor Ragnarok should be, which is the one thing I do want to talk about in the movie, which is that for a movie that really prides itself being a Taika Waititi film, it really doesn't feel like one. A lot of people have been commenting that, man, Taika ruined Thor. Taika is the reason why ThorLove&Thunder sucks. Shut the f*** up. You clearly have never seen a Taika Waititi film in your life. Now here's the thing, I don't want to be a dick writer or anything, but Taika is a really smart filmmaker, okay? As much as you don't want to admit it because he ruined my fictional character. Taika is a really great filmmaker, but here it feels like he was very much against the wall, because it feels like Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios were just putting all their nasty fingers on this movie, just kind of cut this, cut that, change this other thing. Stop, you gotta stop doing this. You gotta let these filmmakers do what they do, which is, you know, they do their goddamn job, which is direct their vision, but you're not letting them. This feels like Taika was contractually obligated to direct another Thor movie when he wasn't really up for it or really willing to, or just not even wanting to direct another Thor film, but he was like, fuck it, it's in my contract, I need to do it, so let me just do whatever the fuck they ask me to do. You can see it, because this is not the Taika that I recognize from like Hunt for the Wilder People, or What We Do in the Shadows, or Thor Ragnarok, or Jojo Rabbit. It's like this film does not feel like him at all. You should really blame Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, not the directors. The directors ain't got shit to do with this. They are being just told what to do, so you need to complain to them about this shit. So while I didn't dislike the movie, I do acknowledge a lot of its issues and a lot of its problems, okay? But at the same time, I still had a lot of fun with it. I didn't hate it. I still find myself enjoying the film for the most part, but I do have to count in all of these flaws because they do overall affect some of my enjoyment of the film. This film could have been a lot more than what it ended up being, and most of the reason why is because it just feels like it's all over the place. The film does not know how to focus on anything, and I really do believe that it's because of Marvel and Kevin Feige just coming in and just bothering the shit out of their filmmakers and not letting them tell their vision. It's just a mess. So if I would give Thor Love and Thunder a rating, I mean, I would say that Thor Love and Thunder is pretty meh. It's disappointing because I do love Taika Waititi, but at the same time, I do need to look at the flaws as what they are, flaws, and I just can't avoid that, man. It's really sad. I'm disappointed, but at the same time, I did enjoy myself with the film. I just wish that it was more than what we ended up having, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you so much for watching, and like always, good day, good night, and stay safe.